Hello, friends, and welcome to the Cinemondo podcast. Look at all these people.
We have a full
Kathy and
house
Mark over here, and we have
most importantly, here we are, you guys.
Well, we have an old friend, first of all, Jason Figgis, who's there in the top right, who is a director, writer who we've had on before for his some of his previous films, Winifred Meeks, The House at the End of the Lane, Cold Sun. Jason, always great to see you.
Good to see you guys.
And it is a pleasure. And his new film called Code Red Spain stars and produced also by our two other guests, Francesca Kingdon and Peter M. Smith. Thanks for coming on.
Happy to be here. Buzzing.
Welcome to the podcast.
Jason, you're a prolific writer and director, and so I'm always interested, how did this particular project come about? Because it's also 03 Productions is also our top tier. All three of you together are partners. So did the partnership come first, or did the film come first? How did that sort of come about? How did you make this movie?
I'll start it off quickly, and then I'm going to let Peter take over, because it's a strange one. This all goes back to The House at the End of the Lane, right? When we were talking about The House at the End of the Lane, I was working away on that. One day I was in Patrick Bergen's castle, as you do, and I was just standing there one day, and I said, what is the purpose of making this film? I asked the question out loud because I'm proud of The House at the End of the Lane, but it's not a subject matter that I would ever really get involved in myself. And that came about in a circuitous route as well, through wanting to make a film with Patrick, and it just kind of evolved. But literally the day I said, what am I doing here? Why am I making this film? Peter reached out to me on Instagram, and Peter had said to me, hey, Patrick Bergen. Take it over, Peter. You took
Yeah, I was raised in a really small town in Dublin called Drimna, and my mother's house and my grandmother's house backs on to Patrick's mother and father's house. So I kind of grew up with Patrick as my neighbor. I used to deliver his newspaper as a boy, because obviously I'm several decades younger than he is, but I would deliver his brother Emmett is actually quite a famous actor as well. He passed away sadly a few years ago, but I used to deliver the newspaper. They were great neighbors. And Patrick, when I started to kind of get a bit of profile and do some theater work and some acting and music work, Patrick he'd take me for lunch and dinner, because his mother, kind of always had this thing that I was going to be this, this big star, and that he should, be a guiding light. They're just lovely people. So it kind of just went from there. And I always watched what Patrick was doing. Even though I was away, I was living in the UK, then I was living in Spain. Myself and Fran kind of have known each other for 20 years on and off. Through kind of other avenues when I was involved in music, and Fran was kind of getting into so organically, really, and then obviously Jason was writing all these wonderful scripts, so here we are.
And can I just butt in that when
yes.
He's going to butt in here, guys.
It's not considered a butt in, but go.
Okay. I'll just talk. When Pete said to me, I've got this guy, Jason, he's amazing. He sort of gave me the backstory. I can't remember who phoned who, but me and Jason had a phone call. And you guys know how easy he is to speak to. We were on the phone for like an hour and a half, and we must have done our whole life stories, mustn't we?
Right. That sounds
and then
right.
I just put the phone down and I was like, Pete, this guy is brilliant. I love him.
Well, he's an easy guy to talk to, and that's why we have him on all the time. Not only does he, he's an entertaining guest, and he also brings new movies every year to us, so get to watch. Yeah. And so as far as Code Red Spain, what's that, Jason?
New movies to get on your show. It's the only reason I do it.
The only reason he does it.
Interesting. Okay.
So we're being used. Okay.
We have very, very strict standards. You must be doing a movie to be on the show.
So how did 03 Productions, you just sort of like, hey, let's partner up and make a movie? How did it get to that point?
No, I had just wrapped on a series for Netflix called Who is Aaron Carter, which, you know, luckily enough then kind of evolved into the most downloaded or the most viewed series of 2023. So, you know, I just wrapped on that, and I was kind of exploring, kind of looking around at what else I could do. And obviously I reached out to Fran with an idea of kind of doing something organic. An actor actually who was in the show with me, Ian Burfield, an amazing guy, amazing actor. We were kind of he introduced me to a script writer who had written this wonderful piece. Originally it was a play based on a hostage situation, a really kind of dog day afternoon, but based in an English pub. So I kind of was hawking that script around. And Fran introduced me to another Irish guy in Manchester who loved the piece, but didn't think that Fran and I were high enough profile actors to actually lead the project. So I called Jason and I told him I was obviously miffed, really annoyed at this. I said, why don't we just do our own movie? You know, I was building momentum. I worked with Guy Ritchie last year. I'd worked with all these wonderful people. I knew I was landing roles, and I knew by the time that we would get around to shooting what it was that we were going to shoot, which turned out to be Code Red, that I would have this momentum where I'd be everywhere. And luckily, my confident hunch kind of paid off, you know?
Yeah.
Nice. That's amazing. A lot of it is timing. I mean,
and
knowing where to hit and like the right people to know. And it's crazy.
Peter,
and the realization that you have to jump when it's hot, you know, you have to go now. You can't sit back and like wait for an opportunity to wander up to you.
Peter came up to Peter said, look, if we're going to do something, let's do something that will fit a genre type of film so that we know we can get it out there quickly. So he said, I've got a character name for it. And he said, I've got a character called Solomon Pierce. And I thought, well, that's an interesting name. And then he said, you know, what if he was a mercenary and maybe on a job? And he said, what do you think about that? What do you want to write something? So I started writing. And then every week I'd send the script through to Francesca and Peter, and we'd all go, yeah, okay, that's coming together. And I can't remember how long it took to write the script. Was it like 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks?
Maybe, yeah. I think so.
4 weeks. It just flowed because I think I told you guys before that when I'm writing a screenplay, I love to allow the characters speak to each other, you know, and I kind of sit back and go, what's a natural course of a conversation? Yeah. Except obviously with this kind of story, it's an extraordinary situation and that it's two mercenaries sent to protect a woman and her son who have to be extracted. And they think it's a simple job. And of course, in the movies, it's never a simple job, you know. They've been betrayed at a high level. And of course, Solomon being the stoic character, he kind of understands this is the nature of the job they do, you know.
That's right.
So it literally evolved that quickly. Peter then went off to a friend of his who owned that beautiful villa in Almeria. It was Almeria. What's the particular place it was called, Peter? The spot?
Arbeláez. Arbeláez, near Arbot in the south of Spain.
Amazing.
It's a mile, like it's 600. He drove like 650 kilometers, right? And he took a lot of pictures and he spoke to Paul who owned the house and he sent us all these videos of the different rooms and he goes, right guys, this is where we're making the movie. And then he just,
this is the bedroom, this is the kitchen.
And he's like, Jay, can you make this work? And I'm going, fuck yeah, we can make that work.
Yeah.
So Location Scout is also
reminds me of when you
Sure, yeah. And you know, he just said, okay, here's the dates for shooting. Everybody needs to be available. And we were all like, fuck yeah, we're going to the And it literally evolved that quickly. Peter and Francesca just organized it like that. And suddenly we were all in Barcelona and then going down.
Yeah, I mean, it was easy because, I mean, we had all these wonderful stunt guys that I'd worked with on Aaron Carter. And they, you know, some of them were on the Guy Ritchie movie. And we had Fran. We needed a strong leading lady. We needed somebody who could carry that really character going through those really strong and tough emotions. And I knew that Fran would but I really got a shock at what I seen. And I know you guys have seen her in action, but in terms of, you know, the emotional delivery and the whole thing just kind of gravitated around what she was giving you know, to the piece. It
Well,
was
I've
just
always wanted to play a gangster's wife. It was like top of the list.
Oh yeah,
That is the coolest, for sure.
Peter said
It is, isn't it? Mob wife.
when Francesca did her first scene, Peter just went, "That's the fucking standard. That's the standard."
You're a badass in this. I mean, you're really like, you are the one that's sort of you're strong there. You know, try to like talking to your son, trying to take care of him, protect him, and you have these two mercenaries in this house. And it reminded me, Jason, of Winifred Meeks, where you filmed everything basically in the house with the one actress. Here you have more actors, and we should shout out to Paul Sparks, who is great. He plays 12 Trees, right? I forget his first name.
12 Trees.
Thomas
yeah.
12 Trees, yeah.
Yeah,
and you had mentioned Ian Burfield, he's in it. Ismail Abadal plays your son, and Ariel Rodriguez plays your son, sorry. Ismail Abadal plays the bad guy, Jason Cortez.
Yes.
So it's a great cast.
It's phenomenal. Like when we were filming, we kept looking around at each other going, this is amazing. Like, look at how everyone looks so good.
So good.
Everyone was bringing it.
What I like too, like I started watching it, you know, we anticipated an action film. You kind of have in your head how it's going to play out, you know, what it's going to be. And I remember being so surprised and amazed by Fran, because it was like, you don't expect a female character to be that strong and that cool. You're like, she's going to be protected by the men, and she's going to be like crying and running around. But you were so fierce. And I love that because it gave it a whole extra level. And I thought that was such a great choice. So you just blew me away in that.
Well, it takes a lot. You mentioned earlier, you mentioned Dog Day Afternoon, and that's absolutely one of my favorites. I watch that movie about 4 times a day. That's a little exaggeration.
Wow, that's a lot.
I've watched it a bunch of times, and you study that kind of film. You know, you study it for the tension and the pacing and the editing, and the performances are so brittly beautiful in that. You know, everybody is right on the edge of falling off of their character. You know what I mean? Like in those kinds of tense situations. And that is having worked on countless films where such things are happening in the film, I can tell you it is difficult for a performer to sustain that. And how did you approach that aspect of it, where you have to keep your level, and you're shooting out of order, of course, and your tension level has to stay at a certain point. You can't be all chill in one scene and then the next scene you're freaking out. You know, there are methods that actors use to keep their tension. What were you doing?
Well, for me, we didn't shoot it out of order. We shot it mainly in order, didn't we?
Oh, nice.
Most of it.
We did all
for me, I had
to leave. The stunt guys had to leave. So we did do a couple of bits out of order. Okay.
Yeah. I honestly, I think I was so tense from the whole experience of producing it as well. I think I just spent the whole time being
so you weren't acting. It was just
it was not acting.
It wasn't acting.
It was actual terror.
Not so authentic, because it was. That is why
that's difficult. That's difficult.
Well, she's worked for Madonna, so you know she's fucking used to.
Oh, you're used to that. Now, okay, expand on that. What is?
Oh, drop that one in, Jay.
What is that? I don't know. He throws those little nuggets.
God, it feels like a different lifetime ago. Yeah, I worked on her directorial debut. Oh. I think she only ended up doing 2 films in the end where she directed. But she was, the whole experience was mad. Absolutely mad. She was great. And I people tell you in this business, like, oh, so-and-so's producing, so-and-so's directing. And you think, yeah. So I went through the first audition. Then when I got back for the recall, in walks Madonna, and everyone just went, it's real. And she was like, hi guys, okay, blah blah blah.
She's used to that. But everyone goes into shock.
Yeah, oh my god, she was amazing. She was absolutely everything you expect her to be. She's proper ballsy, cool. Knows what she wants. Her choreographers were terrifying because we had to do dancing in it, and they were just ball breakers to all of us. But yeah, it was great, and it was what 2007, I think that was. Wow. Maybe 20 years ago.
Wow. And so And Peter, you and Fran have known each other, you said, for like 20 years. Were you like
Yeah.
acting way back when? And is that how you met each other? And how's your friendship?
Yeah, well, I was involved in kind of a musical electro pop project in the UK, which was kind of doing the rounds in the charts. And Fran was good friends with one of the guys that was actually part of that. She was doing her acting thing also at the same time, and she actually joined. She was in one of the videos, and that's when I kind of started to get to know her. And you know, when even though you're not kind of close to somebody, you realize that this is the sort of person that has their shit together, because that's all. The business, as you know, is a chaos. Oh, yeah. And my instinct was always kind of to reach back out to her. I knew that she was ambitious. I knew it would be somebody that could counteract. I like to have lots of things. Jason will tell you, I like to have lots of things on the go, and I like to make big plans. But you always need somebody who is just as experienced as you, but kind of sees it from a different perspective, from what needs to be done, and also somebody with talent. I can't work with people who are just, pretty faces or just this. It has to be substantial, and it just, ticks all the boxes, really. That's why kind of 03 works. Everything we've touched so far has at least shown some real promise, thanks to Jason's writing in the main, and even what we're doing in the theater, thanks to his directions and thanks to Fran's organization. It's just all so far so good. It's been a really positive experience.
Is 03 producing Moonlight?
We're part of it, part of the production. Yeah, I was Fran and I kind of negotiated quite hard to make sure that we had some say in that with Fat Dan. They're great writers, and they come from a purely theatrical background. And we wanted to have this so as we could bring in our own director. We could bring in and make this a more theatrical experience, a more cinematic experience, which is why we believe it's been a success so far, because Jason brings that, he brings that. Audience are walking out and they're like, what just happened? Wow. We must send you some of there, because, Jason has filmed and kind of has made audio tracks of some of their reactions. And it's like,
oh, that's
because you're dazzling them, it's just dazzling. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, I can't wait. And first of all, Moonlight is a play it's playing in Dublin currently. Is that what's happening, or is it?
Yeah, we just sold out 3 nights in a very good theatre called Vicar Street, up in the south part of Dublin, and then we've just about to sell out another 3 for next month, and then we'll take it around the country. We've offers to go to the UK, to go to the United States, New York, Boston. I think New York, Boston, and Chicago, where there's Irish people, Dubai, Australia, and Europe. So it's got legs. And again, it's down to Jason and Fran, kind of organization with the team that exists, and that different experience, because of the subject matter is quite tricky and niche.
If you read the reviews, right, literally Peter embodies Philip Lynott in the role. I mean,
it's my job. It's my job.
It's just a job.
He walked out on stage and came into the spotlight. People were going, "We love you, Philip. We miss you."
Yeah.
Oh, well,
people crying.
Oh, well,
yeah.
I have my own. First of all, Philip Lynott was the front man for the great Irish rock band Thin Lizzy, and
big Thin Lizzy fan here.
Yeah, me too. I actually
spent
saw
the '80s as a singing bass player myself. So
oh, cool.
And I actually saw Thin Lizzy in concert back in 1979 or 1980 at a small club in my hometown of Hartford, Connecticut. And I was in the front row, and it was the epitome of a rock show.
Absolutely,
I mean, 2 guitarists, Phil on the bass, and just jamming. And then when the jailbreak comes on, there's the sirens and the flashing lights. And I was just like, I am seeing a rock and roll show. And they were fantastic, great musicians. Anyway,
the Twin Leads. Yeah, what a band. I mean,
so excited to see that. And excited that you're playing him.
When he got cast, they were thought, God, he's a really good actor. He really looks the part. And they went, I wonder, can he sing?
Oh, yeah.
Boy, can he fucking sing.
He can sing.
I mean,
do you play bass?
I've been learning it, to be honest, but we wanted to kind of get it right. Everything about the show has to be perfect.
Because bass players are going to know if you're You know?
Yeah, and that's the thing with your fingering and with your positioning and your movements. That fretboard, as you know, is a big, wide open fretboard.
Yeah.
So you got to be on the money. And you know, a lot of Lizzie fans are bass heads.
Oh yeah.
Uh-oh.
Rather than
No, he
take
had
that-
a style. He had like a real right.
Yeah.
His right hand was doing some things.
We've got Eric Bell in the show. Eric Bell is part of the show. I mean, the guy who literally named Thin Lizzy, he literally came up with the name of the band, and he actually uses the guitar on our show, which was the guitar that he used when he wrote Whiskey in the Jar.
Nice.
It's over. It's a 53, 54-year-old guitar. I said, Eric, can I hold it? And he goes, yes, you can. You know? Well, hugely honored, you know, to touch that guitar.
Oh.
That is a 62-year-old bass right there.
Wow.
You can barely see it, but well, you know, is it going to play? Oh, he's bringing it out. Here comes the bass.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you got the studded belt. You
got to see
studded
the
belt.
sparkle.
Yes, studded
Oh,
belt.
yeah.
It's pretty.
That's hot rod paint.
Very
That is
pretty.
like actual hot rod paint. This was my baby through the 80s.
Aw.
And still.
Beautiful guitar.
Still his
Beautiful.
baby.
Still my baby.
Maybe we
Peter,
can
you
do
meant-
more with us, Burke, when we do the American leg of the tour, you know?
There you go.
Yeah.
Could be in the show.
Are you guys going to come to LA at all? Is that a possibility?
I
Or is
don't
that
know.
too far away?
It tends to be, you know, you do your hardcore New York, Chicago, Boston. You might get a showcase gig in the Troubadour, maybe in Los Angeles. You might get this, but that'll be an industry thing, so it'll probably be a one-off. That's what I'm being told. So let's see.
Yeah. LA's not known for its theater, really.
Exactly.
They have their moments, but no.
We got some good ones here, though.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
speaking of music, so tell us more about the music that was used in Spain, because you said there was an overlap with the band that's also featured in Sinners, which is very cool, because now Sinners has brought Irish music and blues to massive audiences. So tell us about
That's right. So really good friends of mine, the High Kings, they're really successful traditional Irish band, and they're really doing well. They're really set to take over. Well, they are taking over from the likes of the Wolfhounds. Yeah.
Good start.
In fact, I'm in a session with them next week with one of them, Darren Holden. So I reached out to Darren because we'd be really close to say, listen, we're doing this movie. We need something militaristic, you know, we need something to give this film a bit of pep. So he sent me a couple of ideas, and I actually went and did some homework on what existed. And I heard a song called The Road Not Taken, which Steve Garrigan from a band called Codaline in Dublin had written for them. So that was a bit complicated to get the rights, but we got it. And it just stands up right in the middle of the way Jason has edited into the film, because this film feels, in my opinion, like High Noon. You feel like you're on the edge of something terrible, you know, and that song just punctuates it. It just brings everything to this, you know, where Jason has kind of embedded it. It's just the perfect place, you know. And it just works. So yeah, the guys are being they're really enjoying themselves. You know, they're with us, and they're obviously in the Sinners movie. So yeah,
we had a little Zoom, didn't we, with Darren as well? Quite early doors. He was lovely.
That's right.
I remember.
That's right.
Oh,
that's right.
He came to Moonlight as well, and he loves it. And he's a lovely guy. They're very talented, and you know, it's the same with Brian McFadden from Westlife and Boys Life now, and he has a song in the film, and we're just building. I mean, a lot of these come from Peter's past and the friendships that he has nurtured over the years.
Yeah.
You know, if you're loyal with Peter, then you're in the family for life. You know, it's kind of like
That's so
that
nice.
makes it sound like the mafia or something.
It really is a family.
I'm
Friends until you're dead.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm a little intimidated by all three of you, to be honest.
Yeah.
Please don't kill us.
Please be our friends.
Well, that the High King song really almost is like the introduction to Act 3 of the film. It's like you definitely like that's when we're getting into like, okay, this is when the shit's about to hit the fan kind of thing. So it's a perfect placement. I agree with you, Peter. So I have a question. Like, you've made the film. First of all, how long did it take to shoot this?
8 or 9 days, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wow!
Yeah.
Oh my God!
And then A day in Manc as well, wasn't it? Day in
Yeah.
Manchester.
Oh,
Yeah, a little holiday in Manchester with Easter.
Yeah. Yeah.
It felt like a holiday, didn't it? Really swish apartment. Me and Ian stayed there. Francesca wasn't far away, so she'd come and go. And me and
Yeah.
me and Ian were having a boys' weekend, you know. And then we go, we're meant to be making a movie. I better bring the camera out, you know.
A vacation and a movie. It's kind of the perfect.
Yeah, it's a location like that. You always kind of schedule in some production days.
Location scouting and bars. Yes.
Yeah, scouting,
So it's like,
tech scout.
yeah, 8 or 9 days altogether, including that, I think, you know, going to Salford, Manchester, and that, I mean, you know, that was a lot of fun. But it was funny, like, you know, when talking about the action, the point of the film really was that if we're going to make an action film, we'd much prefer it was character driven, so that you kind of give a shit about the people that are facing action. Most action films, as you know, it's just all about the action and it's all about the spectacle. And we thought, well, you know, we can't blow up things. We can't do insane stunts in this. So we want to have a very character driven story that the real threat of the violence only really comes in toward the end of the second act, and then the third act it comes in. But I mean, even the bare knuckle fight he has with the big guy, Martin, the blonde guy, he's Ron Perlman's double. That guy.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So he
Things
came.
like that.
Martin nice guy. But it was funny though, because people were saying, how did you do those shots where you see Peter really getting hit? And that's because Peter was really getting hit.
Getting hit. It didn't even need makeup.
No, Peter said from the get-go, I mean, you know, he's 6'2", he's a big guy. He said, you know, I can take it. This has to be real. And it really was. When he breaks that fan over his back.
Oh God.
Over his back. And funnily enough, the blade shot off the fan and went just past my head.
Oh.
Remember the first time he just taken it went.
Yeah.
I know, shit, I'm in the wrong
Can you
place.
now see why I was so tense?
Yeah, like all of a sudden your character is basically just being there. So.
Did you guys have insurance? I mean,
Sorry, insurance.
No one's getting insured on that movie.
What's that?
We all signed off. You know, if we died, tough shit. You know.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I just think it has to hurt. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw the Bourne Ultimatum, and actually a good friend of Jason's who does the scene with Matt Damon. It just hurt. You could see that it hurt.
Yeah.
It has to hurt.
It landed.
That's the game we're in.
Yeah.
It has to hurt.
Yeah.
I've worked on a lot of things where there's the fight choreography, and that is a part of it. It's like how much can you take? And I've seen stuntmen hitting each other. Like, how about that? It's like, yeah, it's good. Okay, how about this? Okay, that's good. Okay, how about this? Okay, that's good. And then
And they start
okay,
crying.
that's it. That's a level 10. That's good.
Yeah.
And they get these these limits with each other, these parameters that they stay with. I mean, you can punch your stuntman buddy in the face.
Yeah.
Well, like George Lazenby when he auditioned for James Bond.
Right.
Crap out of the stunt guys because he thought it was real. He's like a scrapper from Australia.
Yeah.
And they're like, men to really kick the shit out of him.
Acting.
Yeah, I thought it was just acting.
It's fun.
Pretend.
Well, that's what was kind of cool about the action is that it felt very grounded.
All the actors were their own stuntmen because we wanted to make it as real as we could. If I did a reverse shot, we didn't want it to be cheated. We wanted it to be real, and everyone had decided on that. So we're all, big boys and a well, not a big girl, but a tall girl.
I can hold my own. I can handle it. It's fine.
Really well done.
Yeah, exactly. And like Ishmael, the little pretty boy, bad guy. I mean, he was such an athlete. When you saw him jump through the air and land on Peter's neck, now it was quite funny because he kept doing it and then he couldn't, and he'd stop and run around again, and then he'd go and he'd go. That whole thing of like jumping off a building and you go, I can't do it. So 3 or 4 times he would go, and he'd stop and go, okay. And then he just did it. And then but all those flips that he did, and he landed on his back.
Yeah.
That's all him.
They were impressive. Yeah. And it was all kind of close in shots and stuff. So it was very real. So the fight stuff totally works and plays.
We might I mean, we had Guy Ritchie's People, but we no choice because we didn't have a big budget. We had to just go, look, we got to sell this. We got to sell these fights. So let's make them as real as we possibly can. You know,
real blood.
Yeah.
We got them done. In a way, you think you'd leave the action to last, but we had to do them first. So I mean, they could have been all in hospital by the end of that, you know.
Right.
And we could have all the conversation or swollen eyes when we come to the conversation. We were lucky, you know.
Well, you know, kudos to making a feature in 9 days, you know, including all that sort of the stunt stuff. And so where does 03, Fran, I'll ask you this, where does 03 go? What are your projects that you're currently thinking about or working on other than the Moonlight? Is anything sort of happening? Or are you just sort of waiting to see what happens with this movie?
No, we've got loads of things happening with Jason. We've got a few on the slate. Code Red Spain twice, number 2.
Oh, you have a sequel. Okay.
Oh no, we've been talking about it, haven't we? We want to do it definitely. We've got an amazing police drama that would see it's like Irish based. Would see a detective who would be Peter. That
would be great.
Like investigating a murder, and that's probably our number 1 at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah.
We want to get, but we've got loads of things that we want to make. It's sort of getting them into some kind of order and plan.
The vampire movie that you're
We've got the vampire movie, Girl Who Blew Kisses at Trees. We've got, we're hoping to shoot that in Hungary at some point. So we've got a few excellent projects coming up, but it's just, you know, getting them into shape really.
It's great to have this wonderful business partnership. When you like people you work with, you know, then you say, hey, let's do more things together, you know, and then you get, it's I always am impressed when somebody can make a movie and then you keep making films and getting them out there. It's, and Jason, you just do it. And now you have this great partnership with 03 for more things coming. That's exciting.
Well, one thing I want to mention too, that you guys may take for granted, maybe you don't, but, you may take your location for granted, but we love, you know, we live and work in Los Angeles on films here in LA, and every movie we see takes place in LA. Oh, they're driving down the LA freeway. They're driving to Ventura. They're driving down 101. They're driving down they're walking through Hollywood, you know, downtown LA. We've seen so much in these particular locations that it's refreshing and really fascinating and interesting to see movies. I mean, this sounds so silly to even say it, but it's fun to see movies that come from other countries. I'll put it that way, and other cultures and other styles of location. You know, like the architecture is different, the language, the terminology, all that stuff. So that's one aspect that I really enjoy about the films too, is that when you embrace your, you know, you're not trying to make a Hollywood film in Ireland, which I hope I'm right.
Yeah, no,
maybe
you are. I mean, Jason, you know, and I always agree on this, that, you know, your probably biggest star of any movie is the location.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got something that you can wrap your movie around, you know, we recently worked with a guy called Pádraig Ó Lynchig, who was the lead in a big Dublin movie at the end of the 80s called The Courier. And that was filmed when Dublin was on its knees financially. So it still had this iconic look, but it looked worn and beaten. You know, so when you look back at The Courier, it's free to watch on YouTube now. When you look back, Gabriel Byrne is in it.
Yeah.
You know,
that's a good movie. That's a really good one.
And Pádraig is the lead. So if you look at Dublin, you can see it through the lens of 1988. No money. It's like an extra character. So when we shoot this detective movie, which we'll probably call 12, that Jason has written, Dublin itself will be, you know, the main character, and the brutal underbelly of what is Dublin. So beneath this kind of rich surface that it has become affluent and wealthy, there's still a hunger in Dublin, you know, and a desperation in certain parts of it. And if we can capture that, it'll be a little bit like The Wire. You know, when you see The Wire, how it's shot and how hungry and desperate certain aspects of it look.
Yeah,
we really want to kind of put that, get that lightning in that bottle and bring that across.
And with The Wire, they really used Baltimore. They they didn't try to hide it. They didn't try to cover it over. They showed you the people and how those Baltimore people talk, and it was like this. It was like this is not LA. This is not New York. It's the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Well, in Code Red Spain, I mean, you make there's beautiful drone shots of Spain. I mean, it's like so you really get a sense of place. I know it's mostly in the house, of Estelle's house, but you get the sense with some of the drone shots and some of the pan shots how beautiful this countryside is. So it comes across fully in the film, no question.
And obviously the goats as well.
What's that?
And obviously the goats.
Oh yeah. I know anything with an animal in it. I'm like, oh.
That's quite funny. That scene with the goats, and I was out with Paul Sparks. We were just so taken aback by this guy, this shepherd who looked like something, like out of 1,000 years ago. He was like feathered skin, and the goats are the color of the landscape. And I was there with the camera, and Paul goes, "Fucking film it, film it, film it." I go, right. Because it wasn't part of what I had planned for the day, for shooting. Yeah. And then I just said, yeah. So when I turned the camera on him and he said, well, you don't see that every day.
That was an ad lib, right?
But I'll tell you, the first day I walked into the desert knowing Sergio Leone had shot Spaghetti Western, I was walking down this ravine. I just started laughing out loud. And they were going, what are you laughing at? And I said, fucking Clint Eastwood might have walked in this ravine in the city. And then
you can't help but hear Ennio Morricone music playing.
And Paul, who owned the house, was up on the balcony and he shouts down, "Look out for the scorpions and the snakes."
Were his lips aligned with the dialogue he was saying?
Oh, absolutely.
That's so funny.
Actually, funny you should say that. Funny you should say that, because Paul, when we had to ADR his voice. Paul, the little guy with the guns, that's the guy who owns the house.
I love that.
Oh, no kidding him. That's funny.
He was like, "I'm not a fucking actor." And we go, "Well, we need you for this scene. You're doing it.
We need you in the scene. Get in.
He brought something to that. Like when he was putting the guns away and walking past the pool, I said, that guy's got something going on.
When he dropped the guns, he actually dropped the guns, and he bollocks, But we had to ADR it, right? We had to ADR it, and he wasn't available, so Peter ADR'd his voice.
Well, all those Western, all those Italian films in general were all ADR'd 100%.
Right, From the grand tradition of the spaghetti Western, we followed suit.
Nice.
Exactly. All the scorpions and snakes in those movies.
I didn't see one scorpion, although Ishmael was stung by a scorpion. Not
Yikes!
But a while earlier, but they had their kits, and
that hurts.
Peter showing us some art. Peter just left us.
He's in, he's out, he's up, he's down.
He's gone abstract.
Special effect.
Literally just
there he is.
Hey, with the
strange.
Sorry. Yeah,
he's back
for a sec.
He disappeared. How'd you do that?
So, Fran, what are you working on currently? Did you mention you were like in London working on like acting or something, or?
I'm not in London. I'm in Manchester.
Oh, you're Manchester. Okay.
Yeah, I live in Manchester now. I've actually, funny I should say, you should ask me that. I've actually kind of taken a step back from acting for a bit. I just felt a little bit like, right, I want to do my own thing. I want to make my own decisions now. Now that I'm a producer.
See,
nice.
It's addictive, right?
What's that?
Now it's addictive. You're like, I want to be producer now.
Yeah. Why? Why is that? I have no idea. It's the most stressful. Just addicted to the stress, I think. So I'm obviously working with these guys. We're still doing Moonlight. We're still working on getting some stuff together for 12 and all the other things we've got going on. I'm writing a couple of things with some friends, one of whom's from California, actually.
Okay.
We're writing like a dystopian spy thing.
Love it.
It's very exciting. Yeah, I love all that
Very
stuff.
cool.
My favorite
Yeah.
things like Black Mirror. So I'm
Oh, me
Oh.
too. All right, we're friends.
Yeah.
I'm the big sci-fi guy. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
The world building.
Oh,
That's always been my favorite aspect of working on
Yeah.
films
So good.
is the world building and reality bending and creating another place, you know?
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
And it's very hard when you're writing it because
Yeah.
you know what it is, but you have to
Yeah.
let your audience know, and you have to get it in the script, and that's
Yeah, that's right.
And you have to
been
do it
one of the hardest
sharply and
parts.
quickly,
yeah, yeah,
succinctly.
yeah. We've been
And-
watching like Fallout and all that, and
Oh,
trying to,
cool.
you know, that's
Nice.
another one that's got a good
Yes.
world building.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That
You know,
first
a
15
film that is in that realm that I have always loved this film, but it doesn't get a lot of attention really. But it's directed by George Lucas. Is THX 1138?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people
Oh.
have never seen that, but I think
No,
because
I've
the
not seen
title just sounds like the classification number or something. But
Sure.
check that one out. That's a great
Okay.
dystopian future,
Low
beautifully shot. The sound design is incredible. Robert Duvall is the star of it, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time, I think.
Oh, wow.
Really?
There you
I
go.
love
Great.
that.
Okay.
And Peter, Moonlight. How long is Moonlight? Are you working on Moonlight? Including going to New York and Chicago and
But not LA.
I think we'll be, if everything goes to plan, we'll probably be busy for the next couple of years. So
Wow.
we'll have to, find gaps. We'll have to find gaps to shoot our films. You know what I mean? And
right?
it's just the nature of the business. And I think because we, as a team, myself, Jason, Fran, we can work quite well, quite quickly, and we have our tricks, as Jason will tell you. I think we can make that work, definitely.
You got to jump on that Irish vampire movie. Now's the
Yeah.
time.
Oh yeah.
So cool.
Well, I don't think it'll be Irish. I mean, I'll probably be the only Irish person that will probably. If we
That's
shoot
okay.
that in,
There's only one
Hungary.
in Sinners, so
Yeah. I could be.
Well, one thing I like to ask, I always want to ask.
wait.
What-
I think Jason was saying something.
Oh,
No, I was saying it'll be in Budapest, so we'll use
Budapest. Okay.
we'll use Hungarian actors for all the victims, and
What are you trying to say?
plays the lead vampire in it,
That's cool.
Astraea.
Mm.
So with her Walkman and her reel-to-reel cassettes and stuff. So
Very cool.
yeah, and it's very bloody, like really violent.
Bring it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring
Who
the
doesn't
core.
love vampires?
Bring it.
I know.
yeah, it's a well that never runs dry.
No, it doesn't.
Mm.
It's a
And
classic
Pete, the
trope.
video that we did together years ago, me and Pete, that was vampires.
Oh,
Do you remember? Years and years
Yeah,
ago.
that's
It's called
right.
Love
Love
Revolution.
Revolution.
Look it
I
up on
remember.
YouTube, just to embarrass him.
Yeah.
What's it called? Love Revolution.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
Pete.
I'm
He's going to
jumping-
kill me now.
I'm gonna watch that right
An
now.
electro pop song by a band called Figgis, Phixx. And yeah, Love Revolution. Actually, it became just a big iconic gay anthem in the UK. So it was
that's
really
cool.
one of those
And it
things that
was-
you're like, where did that come from? You know,
Right.
that is
That's
funny.
cool.
It was like just before Twilight as well, wasn't it?
just
Ah.
before.
Oh,
well
good
ahead of its
friend.
time.
See, you sparked something.
Yeah, man.
Maybe.
Well, you all have always have a place to come here and talk about your upcoming projects.
Yeah,
And
I want to hear more.
if
Yeah.
Moonlight happens to come to the Troubadour or some little showcase, we'll definitely be there because
Yes.
we'd love to meet you in person. And same with all of you. Jason, you've been a great friend to the podcast. We appreciate you coming on. And Fran and Peter, great to meet both of you.
But
This
you
has
sound
been
like you're
fun.
wrapping it up, and I haven't been able to ask my
Oh,
final
sorry.
question.
Ask your final question.
Mark is wrapping it up.
Wrapping it up.
We always like to ask people where the origin of their love for films. I mean, you work in this industry. You clearly have a connection to the weirdness of this industry. And where did that come from with you? What was the first thing because it's a really strange job to have, quite honestly, when you really stop and think about
It's
it. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Why are we making these
What are
little
we doing?
things? But what was it that made you first sort of understand the power of filmmaking as that level of storytelling, that kind of thing? Peter, what was the first film that hit you?
Said, I want to do that.
A movie that starred Kirk Douglas called Lonesome or the Brave, where it's basically just him and a horse.
Yes.
You know, I was raised by my grandmother, and so I was into westerns. So you know, the Gary Cooper, Burt Lancaster, you know, John Wayne, all of anything. If it was black and white, I just loved it. You know,
Yeah.
But for me, the first time I ever saw a movie that made me want to go, I want to do that, was Kirk Douglas's performance in Lonesome or the Brave. It's just phenomenal.
That's a great one. That's a great one. And you mentioned High Noon earlier. That is a strange film.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
The great Gary Cooper. Yeah.
Yes.
Fred Zinnemann.
Yeah.
How about you, Fran?
Oh God, I think I must have been a really weird kid because
That's good.
I've got two.
I think that's requirement.
Yeah, I think that's right. It is a requirement for this industry. So one was the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Ah.
Oh yeah, of course.
I
That's a
absolutely loved
great
it.
film.
Yeah.
Oh, I still love it.
Oh,
so
yeah.
much. Which is weird that it's my comfort film.
Tim Curry, Tim Curry's performance in that is just so iconic. People, it's like, how could you ever top that performance?
I love him so much.
You can't remake that movie.
Yeah.
And I think the other one was Reservoir Dogs as well, which is a bit of a strange one. But I remember it coming out and everyone, it wasn't as big, obviously, as is what came after. And I just remember being like, this film is epic.
So
right.
Epic. And I really wanted to be in it. And I was just like some weird little girl from South London.
It was what
All these
Reservoir
men
Dogs, I think, was the Breathless of its time, because I think when Breathless came out, you know, when you think about what films were before Breathless and then after Breathless, I think there's a defining line there. It's like suddenly there was this freedom. You could run through the streets with your camera, and you could whip the camera around and show a doorway right before somebody goes in it, you know. And there was a looseness that it was like, suddenly it's like, oh, I don't have to stay with all these strict rules. And I think Reservoir Dogs did that. I think that was what was appealing about it for me.
I think too, it goes back to like what you guys did with Spain, is that it's shot on one location,
right?
But it's all very emotional, and there was so much like anxiety and so much action, but you didn't even notice that basically you were in one room 90% of the time. And I loved that about it. It was so active and electric, but it was still only one location, so you can make it happen without having to do a bunch of different, you know.
It goes back to like John Cassavetes and things like that, where he was making films, just got his his 16 millimeter camera and was running through the streets of New York, stealing locations and getting these performances out of people that were so brutal and real and gripping. And that, I think that is something that you have in this film.
Yeah. Plus that Steelers Wheel song from, you know.
Right.
You never hear it the same again.
My ear hurts when I hear that song.
Cringe.
Well, will you guys come
Jason,
on again?
We've heard from you about your favorite films, but tell us again.
Well, look, you know, I don't think it ever really asked you the question before about what was the first thing I had seen.
Mark was probably wrapping up and cut Burke off.
Mark was ending the.
That's what I do. That's what I do. I got the clock. That's my thing.
All right, what's your first one of that?
It was Star Wars, definitely.
Oh,
Star Wars.
Solid.
My dad brought me to see it, and in 1977, and it was like we'd never seen anything like it. You're looking at that screen, going, "What? This is real? Like, surely this is really outer space," you know? Because even the fact that I think George Lucas and the likes of Ridley Scott created a future that looked old, and that was very apparent.
That is cool.
It looked like it existed before the film and then after the film.
Yeah.
You got that sense of it being an old world, but in the future, and I thought that was kind of key. So, but the weird thing was about that, the magazine Starburst came out, which is a huge English magazine of cult. So I got that issue, right? And on the cover of the first issue was Star Wars. So that's how they launched it. And I remember reading that glossy magazine. I still have it, the first edition, perfect.
I have all of them.
And I started reading through it, and I said, imagine making movies and being in this magazine, right? Go forward to 2016, and I was featured as Independent Director of the Month in that magazine.
Wow,
cool.
That's cool.
And it only hit me. I read the magazine and went, holy shit. When I was 11, I said this.
Cool.
I asked that as a question. And then here I am with a big 10-page fucking spread in the magazine.
That's amazing.
So it's funny, isn't it? You were saying, Burke, about this being, it is a very weird industry. And, I think it's something, if you're going to survive in it, you have to be utterly committed. There's no point. It's not for dilettantes. You have to immerse yourself, or you'll only do one thing and you'll disappear. So I think just firmly believing that you have, stories to tell. Like I make a movie and we're always like, okay, we've done that. What's next? And we're like, let's build on it.
Yeah. So cool.
And that's, I think that's the ethos of staying in this industry and shit done.
Yeah. Gotta get it done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Get her done. Very cool. See,
Yeah,
that's inspiring. I find that kind of conversation inspiring because I love that people in the industry actually love movies. It's not just like this cynical, like some movie business. It's like, no, you're in it because you love it.
Well,
absolutely.
and Fran says that she felt like she was weird or something, and it's like not in this room.
No. Very
It's like I don't associate with people who are not weird. If you don't self-identify as weird, you're probably not coming over to my house.
Yes, we're all weirdos.
We're all mad here.
And we all love movies too. So, well, now I'm gun shy to wrap it up.
Now he's gonna wrap.
I know.
I'm totally gun shy. Well, so I'm going to put myself out there. But anyway, it was wonderful to meet Peter and Fran, both of you, and Jason, to see you again. And please come on whenever there's a new production or anything that's happening. We'd love to have you on again because you guys are wonderful to talk to. We really appreciate the time.
Same. It's been great.
Really look forward to coming on again, guys. What a great chat.
For the next one.
Good. Yeah, awesome.
And we can just talk about whatever. We do that sometimes where we have people that we've interviewed and we'll just have them back, just kind of hang out and do an episode about something about movies, like around Halloween time or something. We'll talk about scary movies. What are your favorite horror films? Things like that. So.
And if you're ever visiting LA, you've got friends here. You can always hang out. So please do that. Don't leave. Burke is gonna do the outro, and then we'll just chat a few more minutes. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.